I like the introduction of Jonathan, but you can call me Joe. The other one's far too long. He's a character you don't want to see amongst you guys because he's a naughty one and he does things wrong. Yeah, I've been in the industry for about 42 years. I've had the privilege of moving around the country, so I've worked in Durban, Richards Bay, back in Durban, Cape Town, Saldanha, and back in Durban again now. I look after the country, so interact with all the ports. So yeah, been an interesting career. 7 months to go to retirement. Looking forward to it. So the seafarers, the reality, and it's a reality I don't like to admit, being an agent myself. However, I don't put myself in that category because certainly during the years I've had a lot more interaction with the seafarers' missions, specifically in Richards Bay and more lately in Durban. The reality though is I don't believe the average agent even sees the importance of a seaman. I think he's a tool to do a job. You know, the ship comes in, the agent works the ship and the ship sails. What makes that ship work, I think it's sort of goes above the heads of 90% of the agents in the industry, and I think that's a big issue. It's not a good thing coming from the industry myself, but certainly when we start talking about seamen and some of the issues going down, there's like a blank look on a lot of the agents' face. So yeah, it's something that needs to be worked on and looked at. Yeah, and that goes to the hardships of those poor guys on board. As Samson was saying, you know, these guys get stuck on board for a long time. There's problems with their contracts, and there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. And an agent can play a role in that. You know, if he's on board the ship, don't wait for Samson to come and do a portside inspection. You know, the agent himself can call Samson or call the RTF in or call somebody in and just say, you know, that's what's going on. I mean, I myself have been on 2 or 3 occasions where, you know, you're working for the ship owner, so it becomes a little bit of a conflict of interest. But by the same token, you've got to respect the safety of the seamen on board. And when, you know, the guys are doing a lifeboat drill, and it takes them 4 hours and having to get a shoreside facility to come and get them to release that lifeboat, you must know there's a problem. And you know, that's where we take it on ourselves, the guys that care, I guess, and make an anonymous phone call to Samson and say, I think you maybe need to go down to the ship and have a look-see. And they'll go down. You know, one's got to be careful because you're representing the owner, and the fact that the owner's let the ship into that condition, he probably doesn't care about his crew on board. So it's, you've got to step into where you can. What it should be, and I think in South Africa, through the COVID period, we did get the seamen recognised as essential services, and I think that's very, very important. I don't know internationally in how many other countries that is the case, but it's something that should be done. I mean, a seafarer should be an essential services person, like doctors and those type of things. The seafarer should also have that status, because when they get that status, obviously they get the protection and they get the care that they should get. No seafarers. If we didn't have seafarers, and that's what I try and fight with a lot of the agents. And if it wasn't for those seafarers, guys, we wouldn't have a job. An agent's job is only here because ships call at the port of South Africa. If there weren't seamen on board, the ships wouldn't be calling. So they're an integral part. You know, you look after the engine of your car, look after the engine on the ship. That's your seafarers. Touched on that already. The agency awareness of seafarers' well-being should be enforced by agency companies, and it's not. And I'll talk from our industry, and I mean, how do we get that right? We'll cover that a little bit later on, but it's how do we get that right? Ease of movement of seafarers within the reasonable area of the port, 30 plus minus 30 kilometers, just as a number. Certainly in my younger days, the immigration rules were very different to what they are in South Africa today. Seafarers could move reasonably well and easily within 100 kilometers of the port. So they could go ashore, they could do what they want to. We've got a draconian law in place, as far as I'm concerned, in South Africa now, where the seafarers are limited to where they can go, which means they can't even get to the Seafarers Club on average, excepting, as Ron, you know, the guys at the container terminal, that they can get there, but anything on the main wharf side, where there's probably more ships coming and going, and ships that are travelling a long way. A lot of the ships on the container side are doing 3-4 ports in South Africa, so the guys get ashore somewhere. But the bulk carriers and that, they've got a 28-day voyage that they can't go ashore. So it's something that we've got to fight. We as agents, we have a society called SASOA, which is the Association of all the agents that. And it's something I think the Seafarers mission must put pressure on us. Put pressure on SASOA, that they need to push for it. I mean, we need to be fighting for it, for the seamen, because I think immigration will listen to us before they listen to the seamen's mission, which is not right, but it's the way it works. So we've got to put the pressure where we can put the pressure. Just some success stories maybe touching on, and as I said, I spent about 16 years in South Africa, in Richards Bay. Those of you know it, it's a funny little place up the coast, very industrial town. I always joke and say Mandela was put in jail for 27 years. I sent to Richards Bay for 16, so I was probably as bad as he was. So, yeah, there's a very small community there, and I think it really shows me what a society can do if they put their heads together. I guess part of the problem in Richards Bay was there weren't that many other places to go, maybe. It wasn't like Durban, you've got 1,000 different places you can go to. Richards Bay was not like that. But the community of Richards Bay stood together. And I'm talking the shipping community, not the rest of the community. When I got up there in 1980, the Seafarers Club was a porter cabin, one porter cabin. We increased that to 2 porter cabins, and those that may or may not have been to Richards Bay now, you'll see there's a magnificent Seafarers Club up there, which basically has everything. It's lounges, telephone booths in those days, supper was being served, bar area, library, boardroom, and all the agents interacted with that place. We used it as a call it a local if you want to. But using it as a local meant you interacting with the seamen, you hearing from them what their problems are. We all used to do duty there. So I myself used to sit there with a stopwatch, time the guys. It was on before cell phones. So you time the guy and you work out, that's what you pay. Another evening I'd be the barman, another evening I'd be in the kitchen. I felt very sorry for the seamen because I don't cook. I'm not allowed in the kitchen at home. So, but that's what the community were doing as agencies. We were all involved. The guys then also, I mean, we used the Seafarers Club facilities, and we did various things. We'd hold a potjie cooking competition, or we'd have a briar, and everybody would come, you'd make some money from the bar, you'd pay for the facility. We started doing Seafarer Club golf days, which were hugely successful. They made pots of money with it. We did have to stop them though because the drinking got too much at the golf. Unfortunately, there were competitions on the different holes and the guys were a bit out of hand. But we did over 4 or 5 years. We probably made, must have been close to 700,000 million rand just from golf days putting it together. But it was a community working together, and I think it was so fantastic. Durban. Sorry, we've covered that. Then just going to Durban. I think from Durban, and it wasn't just myself, but certainly I drove the process, was getting, during the COVID period, getting the crew changes allowed again in Durban. Well, it was Durban and South Africa for that matter. Crew changes weren't allowed like everything happened in every other country in the world. The first thing was getting the essential services status given to the guys, and thereafter getting the crew changes themselves to happen. And that was no mean feat, because we had all the departments, SAMSA, TNPA, Port Health, Immigration, Customs, all of them were against it for right reasons. I mean, we were protecting the country from a disease we didn't know about, but we fought it, and we eventually got it right. And so that was one of the first countries that allowed seafarers to be exchanged, which is fantastic. Another little thing in Durban, it's not a little thing, it was a big thing. For years, the seafarers levy that the agents pay on behalf of an owner, it didn't move, and we were successful in getting through SASOA to get a significant increase, I'd like to say. Nothing is significant is the right word. And I think that must carry on year. It's such a small number that's been paid. And again, this agents not understanding the problem. You know, we battled to get the Seafarers levy pushed up, but in reality it's not costing them a cent. It's not their money, it's an owner's money. And who do the Seafarers belong to? The owners. And if you look at it, it's 850 Rand now, you convert that into dollars. I mean, from a dollar number, it's nothing for an owner. Absolutely nothing. To look after 15 to 25 crew on board your ship, it's nothing. So again, it's the perception of what gets done with that money. And I think that's, again, getting back to this, the agents. I don't think any of them don't even know there's a Seafarers Club in Durban. You know, how many of them walked into the Seafarers Club and see the work that's been done there? And there's we're missing the boat completely. Opportunities. Durban and Richards Bay, I'd like to believe, are pretty well-run seafarers missions now. I don't see that in the other ports of South Africa. I don't know if there's anybody from the other ports of South Africa, but certainly I don't think so. I don't think the seafarers, I think in Cape Town it's closed down completely. Salbana, I know, closed down. So we're looking after 2 cities in the country at the moment, or 2 ports. There's more. So there's work to be done to get those establishments up and running again. Red Sea crisis. Oh, so that's his cruises, I should say crisis. Sorry. we're not doing cruises. You cannot sign on for that trip. Yeah, the Red Sea crisis. I just, again, as a country, I'm almost embarrassed as a country to say we are not doing enough for what's happening there. We don't begin to understand the problem. You know, seamen are used to doing their short little trips through there, suddenly they're coming all the way around. And those are decisions that have been taken at the last minute by owners, so they're doing these long hauls around the coast. We should be doing bunkering off of Algoa Bay. I know Sam's was fighting for it again, but South African Revenue Services has blocked it, and I don't know, we just don't seem to be getting to the end of that little game. So we're not doing what we could be doing. I mean, those seafarers could all be getting help, but they're not. Just a possibility on that, and maybe something worth looking into. There are a lot of those ships that are doing OPL calls now in the ports of South Africa because they have to. You know, they've got to get food, they've got to get spares, they've got to do something, they've got to do crew changes. And maybe the Seafarers Club must talk a little bit to CISO and get an indication which ships are coming. And the online purchase system that is working here in Durban to a degree is maybe start using that. Because if there's a launch going out to the ship, you could probably be helping the crew with stuff. If there isn't a launch going out, it'll become too expensive, obviously, because the owners are not going to pay for the victuals for the crew. But if there is a launch going out, get it from the agent. There is a launch going out, and maybe there are some OPL deliveries we can be making. And build on relationships. And that's the challenge I put out to the Seamen's missions, is how do you get those relationships growing? So if we get the guys into the club, and if we get them into the club, maybe they'll see more. At our last meeting the other day, I did suggest that maybe they should offer CISO and let CISO go and have their monthly meetings at the club. And if you get the guys inside there, they'll start seeing more about the place and get a better understanding of what's being done. I always love showing this photograph. That's the potential of South Africa. I don't know how many people have gone on to vessel tracking. You put in vessel tracking. That is, at any given day, at every one of those little red and green dots is a ship on that coastline. That's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And probably only 20% of that do we touch. The other 80% just sails by our coast. The potential for us as a country for all sorts of different things is there, but we're not garnishing it. We're not getting into it. That's a massive number of vessels, massive. And that's me. Thank you. We'll take questions later as was suggested.